Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be joined by Ed Smalls today. We're at Bilston Townhall, and it's a Labour Party gathering of the faithful and loyal supporters from across the borough. Ed, can you tell us about your policies for the future, how they'll differ from the current government, and what it particularly mean for this area, which has traditionally for many decades now been a very deprived area. There's a large Sikh population in this area, and they'd be keen to know how this area of Bilston, Walsall, Wolverhampton, these areas should be neglected for many decades, if you'll do anything different.
Sure. Well, look, it's really good to be back here in Bilston, and as you said, there's a strong Labour tradition here, and with Des Turner, with Ken Purchase, with Rob Maris, over years they fought really hard for jobs and investment in this constituency, and I'm here to support the next generation of Labour MPs, Pat McFadden, Emma Reynolds, who are campaigning hard now we're in opposition, to say to the government, look, this part of the world is now being hit really hard by the double-dip recession. Youth unemployment very high here in Wolverhampton, and I don't think the government's doing enough. It's Pat McFadden who's working to get jobs for young people in this area. It should be the government guaranteeing a job for young people, and I just sort of think that there's more we can do to get the economy growing, get people back to work. That's the Labour way, and we've got to persuade the people of Wolverhampton to vote Labour in the next general election to make sure we get Labour back into power.
That's great. The Sikh community traditionally have been Labour Party supporters, but the second and third generation are now very much part of British fabric and part of British society, and many of them are entrepreneurs or small business people. They may be erring more towards the Conservatives. What would you say to them to keep them part of the Labour faithful?
Well, look, you never take anything for granted anymore. It's such a fast-changing picture, politics. The last general election in 2010, where we lost one of the Wolverhampton seats, we lost Rob Maris's seat, that was partly, as you said, because people were saying there's been a global recession, are these guys doing enough for me? And not everybody voted Labour. But in 2010, the Conservatives said, we're the ones who'll secure the recovery. We're now having a double-dip recession. Only Britain and Italy are in recession. They said we'd get the borrowing down. It's gone up. They say would be fair. They're cutting the top rate of tax for people above £150,000, putting taxes up for pensioners, for people on ordinary incomes. So I think lots of people who might have voted Tory last time round are sort of thinking, I'm not sure if quite turned out as I expected. And more than that, the part of the reason why the Sikh community, hard-working, understands the economy, lots of entrepreneurs, they know it's actually only a partnership between government and business working together that you can make the difference. Advantage West Midlands, Regional Development Agency, created loads of jobs and investment here in the Black Country, abolished by the government.
Will you bring it back? Will you bring Advantage West Midlands back?
Well, I think we need to sort of look hard at what is relevant, what's the right thing to do for this decade and for the future. And I think your viewers probably, if a politician comes along and said, I'm just going to go back to what we were doing before, they'll say, well, I'm not sure if that's quite the right approach. So I'm not going to say today we will bring back Advantage West Midlands exactly as it was back then. But what I will say is, you can't have local economic development unless the council has got a powerhouse in the region to work with. The universities and the business community needs it on skills, on bringing in new infrastructure projects. I think at the moment it's not clear who you turn to. They have these things called the local economic partnerships. They haven't got the money, the powers to make a difference. So we need to fill that gap. The thing about Pat McFadden is he understands industrial policy. He and Emma working really hard to get that new Jaguar investment here on the edge of Wolverhampton. It's that sort of dynamism we need for the future.
Pat McFadden and Emma Reynolds, they're very supportive of the Sikh community, and they do have a lot of support from the Wolverhampton Sikh community, and a lot of our viewers are very fond of Rob Maris and would like to see him come back into power. Is there anything you can do today to help that process, particularly with selection?
Well, look, if Rob Maris was a friend of mine over years. We used to work together on the finance bills in the House of Commons, and he was amazing at getting to the detail and finding the problem and the issue. So he's a loss to Parliament. I don't know what Rob is thinking about the future. If there's a way we can get him back in the West Midlands, I'd love to see him back in Parliament. And as you said, Emma and Pat doing a fabulous job for Wolverhampton.
The Sikh channel has a very large spread of viewers amongst the Sikh community. What's your particular message to them with the forthcoming general election? Because there is some wavering in the Sikh community between the parties, and a lot of them were Labour faithful supporters. What would you say was your last message to the Sikh community to get them back on side?
Well, I would say that the Sikh community needs, and knows you need, an economic plan which works. You've got to get the borrowing down, but you've got to get the jobs being created. They know that it happens by the community pulling together, not pulling apart. We do better here in the West Midlands if we work together. I think also there is this sort of real strong sense in the Sikh community, a real commitment to equality and to the view that everybody deserves a chance. Every young person, education, every child matters. And I see too often at the moment this sort of sink or swim mentality, that the successful succeed and everybody else sort of gets to the wall a bit. That sort of attitude in education, I don't see, from my experience with the Sikh community, that being sort of consistent with the values of that community. And I think if you want social justice and a strong economy and a sort of some vision for the future, then I hope I can persuade the Sikh community that it's Labour's got that vision.
We'd like to welcome you to our studio in Birmingham or London. We hope to hear more from you, and the Sikh community would like to see you perhaps in a more detailed interview in our studio environment, and we hope you'll take up our invitation. Thank you very much today.
Yeah, well, look, and when we win the election and I'm in number 11 Downing Street, you can come in and do an interview with me there, and we can talk about what we're going to do together to make this a better country for everybody, and to make sure that the dynamism and the values which underpin the Sikh community are reflected in support from the government. I hope we can do that in the future.
Thank you very much.